Before I get fully into your tweet that why I wanted to connect with you, you started your tweet out with something powerful. I played for Nick Saban, Bill Belichick, and Sean Payton. Holy cow. How are they alike, and are there things that are differences between them, between the three?
Yeah, the H word I'm getting ready to throw out will probably shock people. All three of them were very humble, all in the same way. All in the same way. I was blown away when Sean Payton came to recruit me away from New England. I felt like Judas betraying Jesus. Bill had resurrected my career. 4 years in Seattle under Mike Holmgren, another very gifted play caller, another awesome head coach in a lot of ways. But a lot of what I've learned about leadership now and what I help men not do is what I learned from Mike Holmgren not to do around a whole bunch of alpha males and around just being consistently inconsistent in all the right ways. I'm not Sean Alexander. I'm not John Randall. I'm not Sean Springs. I shouldn't be treated like those guys. They have earned more trust. They've earned more respect. But in a real world scenario, those beasts of players should be held to a higher standard of excellence, both mentally, emotionally, and physically, than lowly Heath Evans on the roster. Where in Seattle, it was flipped. Oh, don't coach the superstars. Let them get away with murder. But guys like me that are always going to be a yes, sir guy because I was raised by a Marine and an awesome mom, oh, let's just beat them to death and never encourage them. When I got with Nick Saban in Miami for a brief cup of coffee, I started at fullback for him, 6 games in '05 when he first got to Miami. You saw a general in command of a ship. You saw him take the Jason Taylors and the Zach Thomases and the other seasoned superstars and studs and coach them and drive them. And it was different and unique. Obviously, it didn't end well for me there, but by God's grace, Nick Saban cutting me got me to Bill Belichick, where Bill Belichick just gave me my neat little box that made me the best fullback in the league for probably the last 6 years of my career. And so the humility factor for Bill always to be seeking answers, always trying to get kind of one up. Nick Saban, you listen to the way that he praises other coaches and the way that he has drawn little, truths from here and truths from Belichick and the way that they're always learning. Sean Payton came and says, hey, listen, we don't have what New England has. We want what they have. We think we've got the quarterback. We've got an opportunistic defense. I know we were 7-9 last year, but come watch the tape with me. We lost 6 games by 3 points or less. Heath, we're close. We need a few more veteran leaders that are going to be selfless and going to be team honoring like you. And we need your help. All this good stuff in New England, we need help copying this stuff to kind of add in the missing pieces so that we can go win a Super Bowl. And lo and behold, 2009, we go win a Super Bowl. He brings in myself and 4 or 5 other kind of veteran-laden, selfless guys that blended in with Jonathan Vilma and blended in with Drew Brees. And then that team went and created a Super Bowl run that was sweet. We was 13-0. We get a little beat up. So Sean Payton rests all the stars that needed to be rested down the stretch. And then we turned the gas on in the playoffs, and the rest was history. But those 3 men were very humble where it matters, always asking for help and always seeking out wise counsel, even from some people that aren't as wise as them, but might be wiser in one area. And so the humility factor was a huge part. Bill controls his emotions like no man I've ever been around. There's never this angst in his mind. As a dad, my kids are instant BS detectors. They just know. Can't fool our kids. Grown men are the same way with their coaches. When a coach feels fear, when a coach feels anxiety, which they all do. But handling that well and leading your team, kind of riding the ship through these nasty storms of an NFL season matter. When Brady went down, that dude didn't blink. That Monday morning, it almost felt callous for a player of the power and persuasion that Brady was. He had given Mr. Kraft his word. I'm going to do what's best for this team. And what's best for the team wasn't praising Brady and, oh, what are we going to do now? And, trying to honor this great legend that we've lost for the season, but now we're going to go to Matt Castle. It was like, no, here's what we're going to do. There was a plan in place. Pieces changed very quickly. My role in the team kind of got shrunk down to nothing. I went from playing one special team to playing 4, and he asked a whole bunch of guys to do different things, which would be best for the team. And we went and won 11 games with a quarterback that had never played college football. And our defense carried us a lot. We did a lot of different things, but that man didn't flinch. Sean Payton and Nick Saban are high-strung, emotional beasts, and I love them. And I've got so much respect for both of them. They do things a little different, right? They are going to unravel intentionally at times to get a point across, which I agree with, right? I do that with my kids sometimes. I want them to see a heightened level of when they're disrespectful to mama, or when they lie to mama. They're going to see daddy here because this is of massive importance. And those coaches knew when to kind of unleash it emotionally. But both those guys would also lose their lid at time, and it wasn't the best for the team in that moment. I love me some Sean Payton. He has been so kind to me. I think he's come a long way. What he's doing in Denver is sweet. I miss Nick Saban on Saturdays. And college football misses the disciplinarian, misses the teacher, misses the man that in later years really grew to love his boys and to do what was best for them, like benching them when it might cost him a game. The NCAA is a mess right now, and they need to figure out a way to get Nick off of ESPN and back on the sidelines, leading and loving on young men.
Let me take a minute here and read back to you words that you wrote over Twitter. It's so good, I'm going to read the whole thing, and so it's going to take me a second, and then we'll have the conversation about what Heath shared over Twitter 2 weeks ago. So I played for Nick Saban, Bill Belichick, and Sean Payton. I studied under some of the greatest coaching minds in history of professional football, and after the Lord saved me, I realized something that changed everything. Every single leadership principle that made those teams thrive is biblical. They just did it for the glory of man rather than the glory of God. Here's what I mean. Belichick taught us to do our jobs. Scripture commands us to work as unto the Lord, not for the approval of men. Colossians 3:23. Belichick held Tom Brady to a higher standard than anyone else. Scripture says, to whom much is given, much is required. That's Luke 12:48. Belichick cut the cancer immediately, no matter the cost. Scripture tells us that a little leaven leavens the whole lump, Galatians 5:9. Belichick sacrificed personal credit and took responsibility for every loss. Scripture calls leaders to be servants first, Matthew 20:26. Brady sacrificed personal stats for the good of the team. Scripture says do nothing out of selfish ambition, but in humility and consider others above yourself. Brady could encourage a teammate and confront him in the same breath. Scripture says, speak the truth in love. These men did not know they were pulling from eternal biblical commands, but the principles worked. They always work because truth is whether the man wielding it knows it. Because truth is truth, whether the man wielding it knows its source or not. Now imagine this. If these principles built a 2-decade dynasty in professional football with men who did not know the Lord, what would God do through his church if we humbled ourselves and followed the same playbook? What would happen in your marriage if you coached yourself harder than you coached anyone else? What would happen in your home if you cut the cancers of laziness, passivity, and selfishness? What would happen if in your leadership if you stopped protecting your ego and started serving your team? The blueprint is not new. The playbook has been written for 2,000 years. The question is whether you are willing to run it. I spent 10 years in the NFL, and the best locker rooms I ever walked into operated on principles that Scripture laid out long before football existed. Stop looking for a new framework, open the book, and do your job. I would assume this thought, very powerful thought and analogy, you're coaching, discipling young men, and as a coach, you're just always thinking about the history of coaching. Again, I talk about this all the time. I'm actually writing a book about this. People don't realize, like, the Young Men's Christian Association organized sports in the late 1800s. There would be no organized sports without Christians. It was a tool to disciple young men and to bring them closer to God. Sports have been taken away from Christians and it's now far more secular. But the great coaches, whether they know it or not, the great leaders, whether they know it or not, all they're really doing is tapping into biblical principles. What inspired you to write this?
Oh, men struggling. I have a free group. While no one's ever going to charge Heath Evans of charging for the gospel, so we have a free group that I pour myself into every day. I want to help men be spiritually healthy and physically fit. But God has blessed me with a lot of wisdom. And 8 years ago, through a debacle at NFL Network where I was a victim of wickedness and unrighteousness, God saved my soul. And I thought I was a Christian at 8 years old. Turns out I was just really disciplined. I was just raised in a good home around good, godly men and women. And so I knew what to do, but my heart had never been changed by God. I had never been born again. And so through a disastrous, hard time of humblingness, just being humbled and seeing just really the wickedness of the world for the first time in my life, personally, the Lord just revealed so much to me about my own wickedness, my own sinful heart. And he did a great work in me. So I was kind of quiet for a few years and I just grew in the grace and knowledge of Christ. And then in God's kindness to me, I started thinking about all of this leadership that I had been under. When I was at NFL Network and NFL on Fox, people always were amazed that it was Mike Holmgren, Nick Saban, Bill Belichick, and Sean Payton. No one sat under the coaching pedigree that I've been under. And what a blessing it was, because I learned so much. As I started thinking about what works, it always went back to biblical truth. And no one did it better. People call it the Patriot way. It's really the Belichick way. Just doing your job and speaking for yourself and working hard and being attentive, and these little things that feel so easy, they're exhausting when you do them well.